Hello, I'm Preston McCauley, and welcome to another edition of This Week I Learned. Technically, it's actually a couple weeks that have gone by with the Labor Day weekend and such. I did take a little bit of a break. Last time we talked a lot about timeline and Unity. We're going to talk a little bit about some Unity concepts today. Specifically, I've been working a lot more in C Sharp. I've probably spent about 2.5 to 3 years now in C Sharp, specifically for Unity, and that's kind of not normal, I would say, for a UX designer if you kind of ask the general populace. However, by learning that, it helps me to build things that I can kind of dream up, and it allows me to kind of see the full fleshed out prototypes and concepts and such. So if you too wanted to kind of get on that bandwagon a little bit and learn some things, first of all, I've been talking about this for years now, is when I go talk about multidimensional design for augmented and virtual reality, I tell people that C Sharp is a really good bet to learn. I said that 3 years ago. I still believe that's a very good bet to learn. The reason is using a platform like Unity, you can actually go in multiple directions. You could build for an HMD, like a head-mounted device, like a HoloLens 2 upcoming potentially, or a Magic Leap, or any of the VR headsets, or you could build for a mobile device such as an iPad, which in just a few hours here we have the next announcements of some of the new stuff coming out from that line, or you can build for Android, or you can build for some other type of unique device not yet manufactured. So there's a lot of capabilities within that tool. So, but let's take a step back real quick and talk a little bit about some C-sharp learning. So there are actually some really good tutorials now available that really weren't available when I kind of started. So Unity actually has one out here. It's kind of free, kind of get an understanding of kind of what C-sharp looks like in regards to Unity. I would say the biggest challenge that a more traditional C-sharp developer would have is the game objects are handling a lot of the storage and such of the various codes and methods that you write. So it does change the way that you write your code a little bit. Uh, but this talks a little bit about the methods and such, and there's these awake, start, update, fixed update, late update, and kind of those are very important to know because they tell when something should happen inside of Unity. Like if you need to check like an AR experience from the start, you're going to look at like the update because the update is always on and always checking the frame rate. It's running every video camera cycle. Physics, more complex work, you do fixed update, and there's of course a late update function. I don't actually use that too much. And you can write your own functions and you can kind of go from there, and it gets more and more complicated. Now, this is a really great tutorial starter here to kind of look at some of those. Another item that I really thought was good is in the last year or so, Unity's actually been putting out their own tutorials. So if you come over here, you have Unity Learn, which can kind of walk you through some of these experiences and creating them. There's different tutorials available, kind of creating your first Unity project, telling you about the interface, scripts as behavior components, and it kind of walks you through some of these things, and you can of course go through and mark them off as you're going across. A lot of three-dimensional things. There's a lot of good stuff on variables and functions, and I really wish this was around when I first started because it wasn't. I think it's honestly like pretty new, and so there's a really great idea there to kind of get you started on some of that stuff. The next thing I wanted to talk about briefly is there's a once you learn some of the C-sharp pieces and stuff, you're going to undoubtedly run into answers. Now, I've personally found that the community is at times shaky. Often there's a lot of versions of Unity, and so if you're not asking a specific question about a particular version, you can run into some challenges. In addition to that, I personally will say that the community was always seems to be less than friendly on the forums. However, there are the answers to questions forums out here where you can find a lot of information. Most of it's up to date for the most part across the board, and just using Unity as well as specific C-sharp questions and such. Everything around animation sequences to you name it, shaders, etc. But once again, There's another one, I believe Ray Wenderlich is another tutorial that you can go to kind of get up to speed on a few of these. So if you take a look here, he has a lot of different codes, specifically some Unity tutorials out here that are really great to kind of get you started on. And so I think there's a lot of really cool stuff here that you can do to get started on learning some of these concepts. And some of these tutorials do actually cost a subscription, but they're really good. Udemy has a few as well to kind of get you going. Like I mentioned before, is the reason, let me drop over there really just to show you real quick. Here's Ray Wenderlich, here's the forums, and here's the Unity Learn. The reason I mention once again why this is so important is because it helps you to understand kind of the design of the code and how the two play together. And this is increasingly important as we're working on multidimensional design systems. One of the many factors that I teach specifically is understanding the environment, the lighting, which I will probably have a whole thing on lighting at some point later. But it's extremely important to understand these because it empowers you to be able to make some changes to the code potentially, and not feel like you can't do this, or you can really push the bar on some things that you're experimenting with along the way when you're learning. Like I mentioned, changing topics a little bit. Last week we talked specifically about Unity a lot, timeline. The reason I think I'm going to go talk just a brief about, because I spent another week or so on timeline after the last update, was trying to work on this complex AR scene system. Is because I did see that as I started to get more comfortable with it, that a lot more opportunities opened up to use this in my prototyping process. Whether it be blocking out a scene that may have something, and by the way, this is just an example of blocking. I'm literally putting blocks in here, and this could be a house, this could be a city, this could be anything, whatever I'm pretending to work on, but I can actually create new objects in here and block them out real quick. Really great method for just kind of getting a real quick understanding of what I'm trying to build. I got a little player down here, and I can kind of say, oh, they're blocked by, they're behind here. Another kind of tip I just wanted to share, just because this is one, often it's really hard to see in perspective mode, so I have to usually flip around a lot to see things in a particular way, usually from the top, so I can line these things up in particular. So if I want to have this guy come behind here, right, now notice I actually moved on the wrong axis, but come back here, bring him down. There we go. So now he's kind of hidden behind this object cube back here. But this is another technique I tend to do a lot of, is when I'm just first exploring a concept, is blocking it out. This is typically done for gaming, but highly done for AR and VR as well, even in the application space. So that's essentially all I have today that I wanted to show you. It's been a long week working with timeline. I'll come back next week. Most likely I'll be working on some volumetric stuff, and something really exciting I can't wait to share with everybody is a very unique way to approach a workshop and a presentation. In addition, I'll be working on, I'm actually going to be participating in a hackathon coming up, so I'm pretty excited about that. Got some good ideas around the Magic Leap. And then also I'll be working to, it's almost time to teach class again. So a lot of stuff going on, but you know, as I said, always be learning, always be finding something new that excites you, because it's going to, it'll definitely help your career. It may not help it right at this moment, but I've found that over time, when you're always learning, you're going to be picking up something new and something that can help you down the road. So I'm Preston McCauley from ClearSight Designs. If you're looking for AR, VR strategy and all of the great stuff, just reach out to me and I'm happy to talk with you. If you have any questions, or if you're like, hey Preston, it'd be really cool to see how you learned this, or have you learned this before, feel free to leave me a message. Have a great day.